Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Adebola Adeduba. The top stories at this hour. A court grants former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello 500 million naira bill over alleged 80 billion naira fraud. Attorney General warns governors against defying Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. African Union calls for immediate implementation of Ethiopia-Somalia peace agreement. And details shortly. Let's begin by telling you that the Federal High Court in Abuja has granted bail to the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, to the tune of 500 million naira. Justice Emefiele, who presided over the court session on Friday, ordered that the former governor must produce two sureties in like sum. He said the two sureties must swear to affidavit of means and must be owners of properties in Abuja. He also ruled that Bello be remanded in Kuje Correctional Center in Abuja, pending the perfection of his bail conditions. Bello pleaded not guilty to the alleged 80 billion naira fraud leveled against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The Lagos State Special Offences Court in Ikeja has scheduled January 7, 2025 to rule on objection raised by former Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele in the $4.5 billion and 2.8 billion naira fraud case brought against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Emefiele, alongside co-defendant Henry Omoile, is facing 26 charges before Justice Rahman Oshodi. At Thursday's hearing, Emefiele's counsel, Olaleko Ojo-San, argued that the court lacks territorial jurisdiction to hear the case, claiming the alleged offences occurred outside the court's jurisdiction. Countering the claim, EFCC counsel Rotimi Oyedepo-San maintained that the charges fall under the agency's purview as Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is certain Lagos as a proper venue for the trial based on available evidence. After listening to submissions from both parties, Justice Oshodi adjourned proceedings to January 7, 2025 to deliver a ruling on the jurisdictional objection. The Nigerian House of Representatives has initiated investigation into the alleged mismanagement of a $232 million World Bank loan intended for the Accelerating Nutrition Result in Nigeria ANRIN program. Now, this development comes after Honorable Chike Okafor sponsored a motion expressing concerns about the program's effectiveness in addressing malnutrition in Nigeria. The ANRIN program, launched in 2018, aims to enhance access to nutrition services for vulnerable population across 12 states of the Federation. However, despite its well-intentioned goals, recent statistics indicate deteriorating nutritional outcomes, prompting doubts about the impacts of the allocated funds. The House has mandated its Committee on Nutrition and Food, Security, Finance, AIDS, Loans and Debt Management to examine the use of the funds and ensure the program's objectives are not abused.
That the programs so far have been alleged to be water everywhere, but no water to drink. A beautiful program for solving malnutrition challenges, but it has appeared to produce miraculous and obviously ineffective outcomes, taking cognizance of the reports and current indicators of Nigeria amidst such a huge and humongous loan from the World Bank. Worried that the recently released Nigeria Demographic Health Survey 2023 and 2024 indicated a worsening of nutrition specifics, with indices showing an increase in under 5, stunting and malnutrition, and the current realities raising questions about the $232 million spent for nutritional intervention and Nigeria's poor global ranking.
Despite the fact that TB is curable and preventable, it kills more people than HIV and malaria, combined globally, and is the leading cause of death in Nigeria. It is associated with HIV/AIDS, undernutrition, non-communicable diseases, as well as stigma, discrimination, and other human rights abuses. The House notes that Nigeria currently ranks first in Africa and sixth in the world accounting for about 4.6% of global TB burden. According to World Health Organization, about 11 million people get infected with tuberculosis, and 1.8 million die each year from the disease, making it the world's top infectious disease killer. The House is aware that significantly progress has been made in the fight against.
Away from that, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi-San, has issued a stern warning to state governors defying the Supreme Court's ruling on local government autonomy. And speaking in Abuja on Thursday at the 2024 annual conference of the National Association of Judiciary Correspondents, Fagbemi threatened to file contempt of court charges if the disregard continues. The Supreme Court, in a landmark judgment on July 11, 2024, upheld the financial autonomy of Nigeria's 774 local government areas and barred governors from controlling funds meant for the councils. It also mandated the Accountant General of the Federation to remit allocations directly to local government accounts, declaring the previous practice unconstitutional. However, more than 5 months after the ruling, the federal government has yet to implement the directive, prompting concerns about compliance with the Apex Court decision. And President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe, has condemned the spate of assault on Nigerians by policemen and other security officers. It describes such attacks as unwarranted. Osigwe emphasized that such acts of violence against Nigerians are serious violations of human rights and affronts to the rule of law. Afam Osigwe said this while featuring as a guest on News Central's politics program, Politics HQ, on Thursday. The NBA president noted that the actions of security operatives underscores the urgent need for comprehensive police reform to prevent such incidents and restore public confidence in law enforcement agencies.
Well, the position of the NBA is that law enforcement agencies, and indeed every member of the society, that all these classes should respect the right to freedom of expression. And that where a person is seen to have violated it, that whoever feels aggrieved by the same should use the civil law of tort and sue for damages. But we have an increasing situation where the Cybercrime Act is being used to stifle voices of dissent and opposition. And I think we should look at it from a constitutional prism and ask ourselves whether these do not violate the right to freedom of expression. And also about police brutality, I think that there should be more oversight of the functions of the law enforcement agencies. There's a lot of extortion and brutality going on. There's a lack of accountability about persons who are put in detention, how long they are detained, and a lot of extortion of money from these persons. And sometimes also the lack of communication concerning their whereabouts.
Nigeria's 36 state governors have given their overwhelming support for the establishment of state police in the country. And this was as they presented their position reports on the matter during Thursday's National Economic Council meeting, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, with the state governors, deputies, ministers, and some presidential aides in attendance. Briefing State House correspondents shortly after the meeting, which lasted for over 4 hours, Governor Obasani of Kaduna State said the establishment of state police will help governors better address the security challenges bedeviling the states. Governor Obasani, however, said the NEC postponed further deliberation on the matter to January 2024.
Today, as one of the discussion we had at the level of our NEC meeting, is the update on the creation of state police. As you are aware, there was submission by states toward the establishment of state police. Today, about 35 states have already made their own submission for the establishment of state police in Nigeria. And I can say here that from what is available, virtually most of the states are in agreement with the establishment of state police in Nigeria. But today the council have decided to step down the discussion until the next council meeting, because we need to come up with a report from the secretariat, and after the report there will be deliberation in the next NEC meeting that is likely taking place in January. And not only that, there's also a resolution in the last NEC meeting, which today the Secretary have also agreed on that. There will be further stakeholders engagement after the final report and deliberation by the members of the NEC. So all we are saying here is that 35 states have made their own submission, and many states are in agreement for the establishment of state police, considering the fact that virtually every state have their peculiarity in terms of the problem we're having of insecurity in our own states. And knowing fully that we have a lot of ungoverned space in Nigeria, and knowing fully also that we have a lot of deficit in terms of number of booths.
And to unpack this, we're joined by security analyst, and that's Reverend Joseph Hayab. Good afternoon, glad to have you join me on the news. Okay, let me proceed by asking what your thoughts are on state policing, looking at crime and criminality in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. I think the argument and the debate surrounding the establishment of state police have been on for many years. But we have to also agree that in history, Nigerians have had, or Nigeria have had state police. State police is not completely new. There were successes at the time we had state police, though there were also few challenges. So I prefer to look at the positive aspect of state police. At the moment, many states in Nigeria are battling with insecurity. And in the past few years, you know, many of these governors have established some security outfit. Like in the Southwest, we have the Omotekum, we have other outfit in Southeast, South, and also in many states of the North. And it is dangerous for us to continue to bring in people who have not been properly trained to man security issues. So the establishment of state police is to regularize and ensure that those who will control issues of security at the local government are by law guaranteed to do that. So for me, I think it is a welcome development, and I'm happy that this is one program that not only 5 states, not only 10 states, not just some regional, but virtually all the region of the country, the governors are on the same page. So we need to just have a trial again to see the level we will. But you quickly know that one of the biggest challenges we have is that people are entertaining fear that, oh, when we have state police, government will manipulate them, government will be the ones to be in charge of them. It is true, but let's not forget that our constitution is very clear that no governor is going to be governor forever. There is a day and a time he's not going to be governor. If he manipulates police in the first 4 years and we vote him out, he's no longer in control of the police. If he manipulates them for 8 years, he's still going to go out after his second tenure. He will no longer manipulate the police. So we must allow a system that will help address the insecurity and also give job to teeming Nigerian youth. I just hope that in putting together the law that will establish the state police, the fears and concerns will be put in place so that the law itself will address those fears. The law itself will correct some of the concerns that people are having.
Now, talking about laws addressing concerns or fears people may have regarding state police, and I'll come to that later. But I want to talk about challenges, which you have, highlighted a few of them. Do you think funds may likely be a challenge in actualizing state policing as it stands right now? Talking about the newly approved minimum wage of 70,000 naira, only about 27 states, are yet, few states, and we have only about 27 states, yet to set up committees to implement the recently approved minimum wage. So when it comes to challenges, can funds be, a clog in the wheel of state policing in Nigeria?
Speaking from my knowledge, because I've been privileged to serve in government as a special advisor for about 5 or 6 years, and some of the things I know because I've been around for over 2 decades, getting involved in issue of finding solutions to conflict. The money government spend to either give army, to give police, to give other security agencies in the state that are sponsored by federal government. If such money is channeled into state police, we will not talk about money. The fact about it is that some of those money just go to some private individual's pocket, either they are commissioners or directors or whatever titles they bear. So I think that even the money they claim to be spending as security vote, if it is properly harnessed and put together for the establishment of state police, we no longer start dashing people free money and then the work is not being done. So now we use the money to properly pay pay those who have been engaged, those who have been given the mandate to secure us. So I'm not sure money issue, because despite the inability of government to pay minimum wage, as they are saying, but they've been voting billions of naira for security votes. So stop the security vote and invest it or put it on the security outfit that is the legally approved state police. Then we will not have problems. So it's not that we've been using our money wrongly and wasting it in this for purposes that we're supposed not to. But now that we have something that we need to put that money in, the laws will also provide how money that will be meant for state police will be taken from probably allocations or whatever, and it will be clear that so what they are spending today on security vote will become, we have to stop, because the security they are spending as security vote now supposed to go to the state police. So I am not afraid of the issue of funds. I am also just seeing that the issue of management will be the challenge, but that is where the law becomes important, because our laws should be done in such a way that one individual cannot just take all the funds to himself, since we have an agency that is saddled with the responsibility of protecting and securing the people, so the money should channel to them.
Let me expand further on what you touched on regarding challenges or fears and concerns people may have regarding state policing. How can the law address such fears and concerns to enable, state police, policing thrive in Nigeria?
Yeah, number one, I believe that the law will have a criteria for appointing who is in charge of the state police or state commissioner. The law will also define the role of state police versus the law of federal police that are still working in the state. The law will also guide in where and how their operations will take place, the kind of things they are going to be dealing with, and the ones they will do. Because once there is a law, it will now stop people from excess. We did have a law guiding separation of local governments, and it was abused. But thank God recently the Supreme Court came out, and you've just said it in your news, to now say, hey, enough is enough. What should be done according to the law should be done. And so similarly, the state police, there would be a law. I believe that we have credible legislators out there. Despite some of the problems we are having around, we still have people among there that know what to write, and they will be able to come up with a law that will protect the people, protect the police force, it's the state police force itself, and also give the governor the enable environment that he can discharge his mandate of protecting lives and properties of citizens. We do know that in the current act, the governor has no power over the police. The governor does not even decide anything. So sometimes, even if the governor calls the commissioner of police, the commissioner of police needs to get clearance from the IG. Well, the law will clearly define who now takes the first step, and then who comes to reinforce, to support the other person. So I believe that all we need is to be sure that our legal writers or our writers of our laws will write what is for the people and about the people and for the protection of the state. We shouldn't be afraid to give a trial. I was going through to look at the history surrounding state police and even police itself. It wasn't really started as a national police. The Hausa constabulary was not a national police. This constabulary that was done in Calabar was not a national police, but eventually they matched them, and so there were success. We'll look at this and consider the generation we are. How do we go about to ensure that our cities, our communities are protected? Now, citizens will be engaged as state police, sent to their community. They know the roots in their community. Once the people are secured,
I'm afraid
then there will be joy. There will be even flow of economy.
That's a fine place to anchor it. Thank you so much for your time on the news, Reverend Joseph Hayab, security analyst. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you for having me.
We'll take a break now. When we return, a Take It Back movement demands release of activist Abiodun Thomas. Details shortly. Join us again. Thank you for staying with us. The Take It Back movement, a human rights organization, has demanded a immediate release of Nigerian female activist Comrade Abiodun Thomas, also known as Olamide Africano, who was allegedly arrested by the Nigerian police force. The group is calling on the Lagos State Commissioner of Police to order her immediate and unconditional release. And this was contained in a release signed by the members of the organizing committee of End Bad Governance in Nigeria in Lagos State, Hassan Taiwo Soweto and Oloye Adegboyega Adeniji on Friday. Nurse Abiodun Thomas is said to be a prominent activist and critic of President Tinubu's policies, as well as the conduct of the Nigerian police. According to the statement, She has been involved in seeking justice for victims of domestic and sexual violence in Lagos State. The Plateau State Independent Electoral Commission has pledged its readiness to improve on the lapses of the October 9 local government election in the state for better outcome in subsequent polls. Planji Shishak, who was speaking in Jos at a post-election engagement with stakeholders, said the essence of the meeting was to get feedbacks that will serve our strategic plan for subsequent elections. Our correspondent in Jos, Chizoba Anyonwe, was at the event and now reports.
Showed you our support and collaboration, and I believe that is why we're here also to do a postmortem, because we have worked as partners in this process. And the success of PASEC is also the success of energy and the success of Plateau State.
It wasn't possible, but within the commission, they have to think of, trying to bring an electronic pattern of voting using local content.
Back to the voter verification software, there should be adequate training for the staff. In some of those places, you discover that some of them are not very familiar with that system, which brought about the issue of insinuation of sabotage here and there.
Every EO should have attached a media person that will monitor every movement of it, just like the security agencies. And every ward should have a media present there attached, courtesy PASEC, to monitor and give adequacy in times of reportage.
And that set the tone for this engagement for the Plateau State Independent Electoral Commission to do a stock-taking of the October 9 local government election in the state in order to improve in subsequent ones. The governor of Plateau State commended PASEC for the success of the grassroots polls, but challenged the leadership for better results in future.
A good job now, but at least this is an opportunity to listen to, get feedback on what has gone right, what has gone wrong, and what can be done better. Because when people give you accolades for doing well, it doesn't mean you should sit back and relax. You have to plan to do better.
For the PASEC boss, who had just tasted the waters of the local government polls for the first time since becoming chairman of the commission, better outcome is his promise to the people of Plateau State.
We are not saying that we have done exceptionally well, but this will also help us to improve on what we have done. This will guide us to be able to have a report and a good report that we can make our strategic plan for the next 2-3 years.
Going by all that has been said here, all eyes will now be on the Plateau State election umpire to deliver better on their mandate in subsequent polls. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
And to more policy-related stories, the FCT Police Command has announced the arrest of several suspected criminals, including a one-chance syndicate group. Now, the police commissioner, while parading the suspect in Abuja, says that 13 vehicles were recovered in the last 2 weeks, with 8 recovered in the last 7 days alone. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, has more.
According to the police, the recent arrest of 7 suspected members of a one-chance syndicate group allegedly responsible for terrorizing the capital city was made possible through strategic intelligence gathering, surveillance, and targeted interventions. The FCT Commissioner of Police says that significant items were recovered, including 8 vehicles, 109 phone memory cards, and several other belongings within the last week.
7 different groups of people operating one chance have been arrested. In all, last week and this week, the total number of vehicles gotten from operators of one chance is 13. 3 different groups operating with POS are among the ones arrested. The POS are here for you to see. 5 laptops were recovered from them. These laptops were robbed from passengers who fell victims to them. 3 phones of different makes, $203 recovered from them.
The police also revealed that a common threat among the vehicles used by the arrested syndicates is the use of tinted windows, which they use to conceal their activities.
If we have 109 memory cards removed from phones, that is equivalent to 109 phones collected from victims of one chance. There is a common denominator in the vehicles gotten from one chance. All the vehicles recovered from them are tinted. All the vehicles recovered from operators of one chance, 13 of them, they are right there behind you for you to inspect, are all tinted.
During the interrogation, some suspects provided chilling details about their operations, explaining how they trick unsuspecting victims to rob them of their valuables.
If person come inside motor, where he enter inside motor, you go to tell and say, shift. From there, they remove in kaya. Before you know, the driver will tell her, give him price, he go drop. So you go. The price now, the way Maraba na 200, if you say 500, 600, person go do anoint, you go drop.
You get oga. Yes, sir. Let me get motor. I don't know how far, but as I follow them, if you hold anything for lefty, if you enter motor as in last passenger, 3 for back. Yes, sir. Then you where they come now as in passenger, and you go complete them 4. Then the oga, the workman himself, and I go remove it for lefty pocket.
The police commissioner, while expressing regrets for the inconveniences experienced by citizens in the course of their operations, urged the residents to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activities to the police. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
The Lagos State Police Community Relations Committee, PCRC, brought together dignitaries, law enforcement, and community leaders to celebrate its annual end-of-the-year banquet. The event, themed around fostering collaboration and empowerment, provided a platform to reflect on the year's achievements and further strengthen community relations with the police force. Our correspondent, Chidima Ona, has details of the story.
The evening commenced with the arrival of members, guests and dignitaries, followed by the national anthem and an opening prayer setting a solemn and celebratory tone. The Lagos State Commissioner of Police, represented by Ben Hussein, the Public Relations Officer of the Lagos State Police Command, delivered an appreciation message to the PCRC members recognizing their efforts.
Thank you all for the wonderful work you have been doing. We might not thank you enough, but trust me, we notice and appreciate everything you are doing. So like I said, first and foremost, appreciation, and secondly, to encourage you to continue to do what you're doing, to encourage you to expand your posts, bring more people on board. The more the merrier. We would like to experience the good things we're experiencing with PCRC in multiple folds.
The special guest of honor, Secretary to the State Government, Abimbola Saluddin, commended the PCRC vital role in strengthening the bond between communities and law enforcement officers.
This gathering is a testament to the vital role the PCRC plays in strengthening the bond between law enforcement and the communities they serve. If no other state has testimonies about the efficacy, the efficiency, and all the good work that the PCRC is doing, I assure you that Lagos State has a testimony.
A major highlight of the event was the 2024 banquet lecture delivered by the PCRC National Chairman, who spoke on the actions the PCRC has taken in maintaining safety.
The essence of community policing is to return to the day when safety and security are participatory in nature and everyone assumes responsibility for general health of their community. Not just its lake field, not just the local government administration, not just safety forces, but absolutely everyone living in the community.
The atmosphere turned festive as participants expressed appreciation for the Lagos State government's commitment to empowering the youth and fostering economic growth through community initiatives. In Lagos, reporting for News Central, I am Chidima Ona.
Coming up, African Union calls for immediate implementation of Ethiopia-Somalia peace agreement. Details shortly. Join us again. Thank you for staying tuned. The African Union has urged Ethiopia and Somalia to swiftly implement agreements aimed at easing tensions over Ethiopia's access to the sea, describing the deal as an important act. The long-standing dispute stems from Ethiopia's January deal with Somaliland, a self-declared independent region of Somalia, to lease a stretch of coastline for a port and a military base. In exchange, Somaliland claimed Ethiopia would recognize its independence, a move Addis Ababa has not confirmed. Somalia condemned the deal as a violation of its sovereignty, sparking concerns of renewed conflict in the already volatile Horn of Africa. After hours of Turkish broker talks, Ankara announced late on Wednesday that a historic agreement had been reached between Somalia and Ethiopia. Abu Mohammed al-Julani, head of the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, which spearheaded the offensive, has called on Syrians to go to the streets to express their joy on Friday to mark the victory of the blessed revolution. Interim Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir addressed a large congregation at Damascus' landmark Umayyad Mosque on the Muslim day of prayer and rest. Thousands of jubilant Syrians gathered outside a landmark mosque in the capital Damascus to celebrate during the first Friday prayers since the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad. Ousted President Bashar al-Assad fled Syria, closing an era in which suspected dissidents were jailed or killed, and capping nearly 14 years of war that killed more than 500,000 people and displaced millions. And to unpack this, we're joined by our international correspondent, and that's Afia Hagen. Afia, today is been called Victory Day, or Victory Friday in Syria. What's the latest?
Yeah, thousands of people packing into the streets, as we saw there in Damascus, overflowing the mosque during Friday prayers, before Friday prayers, during and afterwards. And it's all about celebrating this first Friday since the fall of the Assad regime. Now, residents in Damascus were asked not to fire guns too much and not to celebrate too much. But I think actually what's happening in Damascus is really indicative of what people are feeling across the country in Syria, that the brutal Assad regime is now over. What's coming has to be better than that. And people feeling a real sense of freedom. You know, shopkeepers had to paint their shops with the colours of the Syrian flag, and we're seeing all across the country of shopkeepers painting their shops whatever colour they want. You know, it really was a brutal regime which was all about dampening down any dissidents, you know, anybody that would cause an uprising against President Bashar al-Assad. And lots of people across Syria now feeling free. And of course, those dark prison sites, those Assad prisons that we've heard so much about, prisoners being freed from there, those who are still alive. These dark prison sites have seen their loved ones streaming into them as well to try and find their loved ones or try and find their remains. So what remains to be seen now, post the fall of President Bashar al-Assad, is a country trying to put its pieces back together.
Well, learning of chemical weapons that were used by Assad against the Syrian people are being hunted for. What's the likelihood they will be found?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were some terrible attacks using chlorine gas, using mustard gas in Syria. 34 known uses of chemical weapons in the Syrian civil war between 2013 and 2018. 1,000 people killed by sarin gas in the Damascus suburb of Ghouta, and mustard gas used in a town near Aleppo. And so now is the opportunity to rid Syria of these weapons. So they are being hunted for by the chemical weapons watchdog, looking for those chemical weapons that were used. Now, the new regime has also promised that there will be repercussions for anybody who used chemical gas against Syria's own citizens, which they did. And anybody who's left from the Bashar al-Assad regime who's in the country still will be held responsible. Now, whether they will find the chemical weapons remains to be seen. Perhaps they have been destroyed. But it's a good thing, actually, that they are being hunted for because, like we said, thousands of people died because of their use during this civil war.
What could be next for Syria, Afia?
And that's the big question now after this Victory Friday. What comes next? The dark prison sites have been opened. We're now searching for chemical weapons. It's all about trying to stabilize the country that's in a part of the world in the Middle East that has been hugely destabilized this year. Now, Secretary of State to the United States, Antony Blinken, is in Iraq at the moment with a Turkish delegation who are discussing how best to stabilize the region. The G7 countries are also coming together and have come together over the past few days to discuss that also. The UN chief has said he's also deeply concerned about violations of Syria's sovereignty after Israel launched strikes and deployed troops to the country. And so now it's all about stabilizing the region, making sure that Syria can get back on its feet, and making sure there's a big diplomatic push to ease the transfer of power that's happening at the moment.
All right, thank you so much for your time on the news, Afia Hagen, our international correspondent. Many thanks, Afia. In business, the Independent Media and Policy Initiative, IMPI, a think tank, has defended the recent National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, report on Nigeria's unemployment rate and gross domestic product, GDP growth, amid criticism from skeptics. In a policy statement, IMPI chairman Dr. Moniyi Akinshiju highlighted that the NBS recorded a drop in unemployment from 5.3% in Q1 of 2024 to 4.3% in Q2, with GDP growth rising to 3.45% in Q3. Critics question the credibility of these figures, labeling them propaganda due to perceived inconsistencies with economic conditions. IMPI emphasized the validity of the NBS methodology, aligning with International Labour Organization standards, which accounts for self-employed individuals. It praised the service sector, driven by ICT, for its dominant 53.58% GDP contribution in Q3 of 2024. And to unpack this, we're joined by Chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative, Dr. Moniyi Akinshiju. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the news.
It's a pleasure and a privilege too. Thanks for having me.
All right. How does the revised NBS methodology, talking about the 1-hour work week metric, align with international standards? Does it in any way impact the unemployment data?
Well, what is obvious is that the metric is not organic to the National Bureau of Statistics. It's actually an adaptation of the metrics recommended by the International Labour Organization. And of course, we know that the International Labour Organization is the umbrella body of all forms of labor engagement across the world globally. And that would be, the basic reference, into the survey or the methodology to survey labor force. Now, for us, the adoption of this methodology, as different from what had obtained before 2023, is a realization of the difference between our economic structure and, of course, the nature and character of our labor force compared to the developed economies. The developed economies is driven developed economies are driven more or less by structured wage labor. Historically, before the coming of the colonialists, our economy is structured on subsistence farming, agriculture, and that has still remained the base of our economy. So I think the International Labour Organization realizes this and therefore decided to create a paradigm that would be suitable for measuring and for surveying labor force in developing economies as different from those in developed economies.
Let's talk about a drop in the unemployment rate, in Nigeria. Is this something to celebrate or just a flash in the pan? Looking at the drop from 5.3% to 4.3% between Q1 and Q2 of 2024.
Ideally, it is not about celebrating. It's about having functional, workable data, because when we look at where we are coming from, the focus, that's the earlier 20-hour-a-week metric, we're coming from a place where the emphasis was on wage labor, and that everything in the universe of labor force was focused on the wage laborer. And of course, the thinking of the ILO, and I think the MBS, when it decided to adopt the ILO metric, was that you do not also alienate the millions of Nigerians, in other sectors of the economy who are self-employed. So it is just now to bring in the numbers of self-employed people into that orbit so that they can be captured appropriately. And that will also form the basis of policies, that would be deployed, conceived and deployed, to grow different sectors, as it were, and of course the capacity of our labor force. So I am not about celebrating a fall, but about looking at our data dispassionately and using them to inform policies that would, of course, enhance standard of living. Because at the end of the day, the essence of labor is to earn enough to increase or to sustain a standard of living that is considered suitable for existence.
Well, let's talk about, this NBS data credibility. Why do you think we have criticism regarding their data credibility, and what steps can be taken to enhance transparency and also public trust in such reports?
No, you see, we should not mix up sentiments, with data. The important thing in the data, or the major framework in the data, is the methodology. You can have different kinds of data depending on the methodology of survey, that is adopted to measure whatever you want to measure, whatever the thing you want to measure. In this case, the NBS had decided to adopt the International Labour Organization data. And I think it has good ground for adopting it, because the larger percentage of the Nigerian populace are actually in self-employment. Some people erroneously call it informal. I do not describe it as informal. I agree with the International Labour Organization that you have people who are in self-employment. Self-employment, of course, also translates to mean that you could work for yourself for 1 hour and earn as much as someone that works for 365 hours in a year. So it depends on the earnings that are differentials, of course. You have people in the digital economy, for instance, who work for 1 hour, 2 hours in a month, and they earn hugely for it. You have of course, you also have people who are into transportation, for instance.
Dr.
Akinshiju, as much as the people in which...
Dr. Akinshiju, I wish we had more time. Apologies, I have to butt in. They were pressed for time. I wish we had more time. Thank you so much for your expertise on the news. Dr. Moniyi Akinshiju, Chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative. Many thanks indeed. In the world of sports, according to the latest FIFA rankings, Nigeria's women's football team, the Super Falcons, remain Africa's highest-ranked squad despite their current position of 36th in the world. The ranking is a significant drop from their peak of 23rd place, which they achieved in June 2004 and March 2005. South Africa follows as the second highest-ranked African team at 53rd, with Morocco 61st, Zambia 62nd, and Ghana 66th, Cameroon 68th, and Cote d'Ivoire 71st, also ranking among the continent's top teams. And that's all on the news. Let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Court has granted former Kogi Governor Yahaya Bello 500 million naira bail over alleged 80 billion naira fraud. Attorney General has warned governors against defying Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. We also told you that African Union has called for immediate implementation of Ethiopia-Somalia peace agreement. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adeduba.